Welcome. Hello, MACC members. I'm Laurel Hansen, MACC's Program and Member Engagement Manager. Welcome to Ask MACC Workforce Edition, brought to you by the Metropolitan Alliance of Connected Communities. We know our network is faced with ongoing and incredible challenges when it comes to workforce. Workforce is how we provide valuable services to the community, and yet our workforce challenges can create difficult hurdles for our organizations to operate sustainably. There can be complex and seemingly insurmountable barriers to deal with, and that's why at MACC we launched the Workforce Solutions Initiative. That includes these bite-sized recorded conversations about workforce issues, along with the resources that are available in MACC's Workforce Solutions Hub. And during this brief conversation, I'm joined by Ingrid Sabah, Managing Director, Impact, Evaluation, and Learning with MACC member African American Leadership Forum, or the Forum, as I understand they're called right now. Thank you for joining me, Ingrid. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Laurel.
Yeah, it's great to talk with you. Hopefully I got all of that right. I understand you're just announcing a new way to talk about the work that you do at the Forum. That's really cool.
Yes, that is hot off the presses. We just rebranded as an organization and debuted just last Wednesday. So that is very fresh, but very exciting.
All right. Well, breaking news. Glad that we can be a part of getting that message out here at MACC, and we're just so happy that you are members of the network. So during this chat today, we're going to talk about a couple things, but the first thing that we're going to talk about is recruitment. And when we decided we wanted to talk to some members about this, your name and your organization was one of the first ones that came up, because you have some interesting thoughts and some points of view that you can share with the network. So thanks for being a part of this conversation. I will jump right in if that's okay with you.
Oh, that'd be great. I'm honored to be spotlighted. So
yes. All right. So we have talked to MACC members quite a bit about their workforce challenges. And when we ask MACC members, our nonprofit leaders, about their greatest workforce challenges, they inevitably bring up recruiting and the fact that recruiting is harder than ever. They desperately want to fill the positions that they have in their organizations. They know that their communities need the services, and yet it's still a barrier to their being able to move forward. So I'm just really curious about what's going on at the Forum, and have you experienced recruiting challenges in the work that you do there? And is there anything you've done differently? Like, have you changed recruitment strategies in the current environment?
Yeah, I would say the struggle to recruit is definitely felt all over the place as talent and as organizations respectively. And I think everyone's trying to solution the problem, and it is unique by organization, like the tools that you may have in your toolkit and how you may go about that. I believe at the Forum, we've been really fortunate to have a really strong brand in community, and our marketing and brand team has done amazing work in helping us market our roles and partnering with MACC subsequently as well to get those circulated to the right channels and make sure our positions are visible to those respective talent pipelines. But I think even before you can begin branding, a lot of the work happens internally, right? And drafting and crafting those job descriptions or role descriptions, if you will. And the language that's used there, and what we are really wanting folks to come in and deliver, and the impact that we're wanting folks to make at our organization. I think it's an art and a craft in and of itself to sit down in a room and be able to bring language to that and understanding across team members. So I would say it's felt all over how hard recruiting is right now. The skills and the tools that an organization will use to kind of solution those challenges vary, but we've been really fortunate to be able to collaborate with MACC and our leadership team in getting really awesome folks in the door.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. A lot of our members partner with MACC, and your organization in particular, and the work you do partnering with MACC and our HR services team, and they speak so highly of you. You also said across team members. So I imagine that sometimes internally, your own team members are your best sources of recruiting.
Yes, absolutely. And I would say not even from like a referral based standpoint, although that's very popular and you want
Mhm.
to bring in like reputable folks that are maybe known in community, etc. But in partnering with team members and leaders to identify what that need is, like what is that capacity before we even get to a job description, right? Like what is the team currently lacking and how can we be creative in solutioning that? And if ultimately it is bringing in additional resources and it is bringing in another team member, let's go down that path. But I think that type of investigation is really important in setting anybody up for success and setting up a team for success, and also building just resiliency a little bit. Maybe it's like you're in a busy season that we haven't experienced before, or the work is transforming in a way that is illuminating a gap on a team, that we could bring in someone new, or maybe it's an opportunity for another team member to kind of expand in a skill set. Um,
Ah, you're leading us into our next conversation, which is going to be about skills-based workplaces. I can't wait to talk to you about that as well. Um, so it's said that what people want from work has changed, and who knows, maybe that's forever. What do you think about that insight? And have you noticed shifts in that point of view in the workplace?
Absolutely. I think it is the most true, especially given our landscape in Minneapolis, specifically post a pandemic, a social uprising, just numerous societal factors that challenge how and where people feel safe. Not to begin to discuss like where people feel balance. I think flexibility has become paramount by way of talent needs, and that's a shift that requires partnership. Um, Not only on the behalf of the forum or any organization, but on the behalf of an individual as well. We've also taken steps to operationalize that flexibility, and kind of bring that to life through our benefit structure, and the benefits that we offer to team, and shifting from an accrued model to an unlimited PTO model. And
We're
and
hearing a lot about that in the
yeah.
workplace. Mhm.
And like, how does it go? How do people feel about it? Are people taking the time? Aren't they taking the time? But I think what's kind of underscored that is our working agreement and our culture being one of deliverables and an outcome based culture. That, like, on the behalf of the employer, like, there's an agreement or a mutual understanding that like you deliver against the work, and for talent and respective candidates, it is I have the opportunity to I have the opportunity and I'm empowered to take control of what that looks like and how that gets done.
Yeah. You mentioned flexibility. That really was one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, and just really, yeah, how are your employment practices shifting in this current environment? And I love what you said about flexibility, partnering with outcomes. I mean, they really do go hand in hand, and you've explored and investigated your benefits. And it also sounds like you really listen to folks, whether it's your applicants or your employees. It sounds like taking their input in has been a critical part of the organization.
Definitely. I think for organizations like near and far, like your current talent is your primary audience and your most important stakeholder. You're
I'm
talking about
writing that down. Okay,
you're talking
that's a great quote. And can we all just remember that, please?
yes, like your people are your power. They are where you should drive your passion from and your purpose. I think shaping your culture around your current talent is not a bad idea.
Yeah.
And trying to make that a collaborative effort, right? Like you want to co-create a culture in your organization, and that only happens through like two-way communication, asking folks, what is it that you need, versus going off and solutioning in a vacuum, or just kind of going off the data. Like I think that qualitative texture is really important. and hearing people's stories and what it is that brings them into work or what it is that keeps them home. If it's having children, if it's taking care of family, if it's just anxieties around being in the workplace after quarantining for however long. Like, how can we meet people where we're at? It's not always easy. It's nuanced and need based and varies by individual, but I think it's really important work that can strengthen an organization. In a time where maybe that loyalty isn't there to an organization the way it used to be. Um, and folks, I think, are willing to commit, but you kind of have to give them a reason. And if you show that you trust them and they can trust you in turn, like that can do so much for an organization's culture. Um, yeah.
I'm so glad we're recording this conversation. This is really profound what you're sharing, and I couldn't be taking notes fast enough to capture all of this. So I know our members are really going to enjoy hearing your point of view. And there was some great stuff there. So thank you so much for sharing that. So you said people are the power. Our people are our power in our organizations. So let's talk about that. How do you find talent pools? That's such a big question that comes up with our members when we're talking about recruitment. Are there specific methods that work best for you at the forum?
Building talent pipelines, Laura, it is a time. I think there is no easy fix. There is no quick fix to um, filling your talent pipeline. I believe that it takes time and like a concerted and thoughtful effort across teams. I think being really strong in not only your mission and vision, and like the packaging of your organization and how it shows up like across social media channels, and in community. Um, all of those things are like in your ecosystem of like your reputation as an organization. And I think ALF has had its successes long before this time. Like those seeds have been planted and those networks have been kind of nurtured and those relationships watered, that like now with a brand that kind of aligns with our culture and our values and our promise, it's even just more exciting to share. But I think organizations need to give themselves some grace and practice a little bit of patience and invest more in the relationships that maybe you're missing in your talent pools, whether it be with BIPOC owned organizations or businesses, or showing up in those spaces, if it's sponsorships or partnerships. Those like one-time activations can feel like just a drop in the bucket, but if you make it a practice, if you make it a culture of your organization to invest in those relationships, I think the results and the return will be tenfold, by way of like building rapport. I think folks are excited to work for organizations that they know and that they've seen before or heard of before or that their community knows. And in a way, like you build your allies, you build your champions, um kind of share yourself with the community. And then when an opportunity arises that aligns with someone, they are more than excited to apply and kind of share their treasures and talents with the organization. Um, but that's easier said than done, right? And
Yeah,
it takes time.
yeah. Here we are talking about recruitment, and we are just as much talking about the culture of an
Mhm.
organization and workforce. And something that I really like that I'm hearing from you is that um, recruitment starts before the recruiting starts. You have to build a platform, build a base, a foundation, so to speak, for you can't do it alone, right? So you're in community, and those relationships are what's going to the yield prospects in that talent pipeline.
Yes,
Yeah,
100%. Recruitment starts before the recruitment even starts. Yes.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
I've
that
never thought of it that way before until you pointed it out. Um, yeah, so I think the olden days of just putting up a job posting. Those are sort of behind us. Those don't really work that well, or there's such a glut and so much competition.
Yeah.
So that makes me think, like, are there still tools? Are there still recruitment tools that yield? Or do they still work?
I
From
think,
job descriptions to postings to, like, what do you do?
yeah, I think we're not perfect at this just yet, but in the piece that you said about like the recruiting starts before the recruiting even starts, like I think for organizations to adopt an almost always on recruiting model,
Uh,
um,
uh-huh.
would be a great practice versus thinking about recruitment as a tool, but rather a practice of your organization, in partnership with your marketing and brand team to kind of continue to build that, just like presence and understanding and tone, within areas or groups or cohorts that you would potentially love to kind of tap in terms of candidate pipelines. And that can take a multitude of shapes. Like if you on your website wanted to kind of just have like an always on or open general posting of sorts that like if you wanted to contribute your time, talent, and treasure in X, Y, and Z areas, just kind of reach out by way of developing a repository of folks who have like a very diverse range of skill sets, but you don't have that perfect role open just yet. That is something organizations are doing. And I think it's just really exciting to kind of um, review what comes through and like reimagine an opportunity at your organization that maybe just hasn't come to light just yet.
I get that. I'm glad you brought that up, because what if we were building a bench? What if there were folks that were aware of and eager for the opportunity, and we could invite them in to learn more when those opportunities arose. Yeah, that's a wonderful approach. Always hiring, always recruiting, always on for people who are interested in what you're doing at the forum. Well, I could talk to you all day, but I do know we need to wrap up, and I just want to give you the opportunity to sort of help us summarize some of this wisdom that you've shared with us today. And you're talking to other MACC members, other nonprofits in our organization. What are some of the things that you ultimately recommend as they may be really struggling with recruitment? Like what are your wise words of advice?
I appreciate that. I would say to other members, and myself, don't be afraid to try something new, whether it be a partnership or an activation that's authentic to you and your brand. Or maybe you don't have the solution just yet to even try, but you want to bring different thought leaders into a space to just have that conversation. I feel like I'm recalling, and also my brain is buzzing with things as I'm just having this conversation with you, Laurel, that there's a lot of power in just kind of getting together to talk through an issue. So don't be afraid to try something new. And ask your current staff, like what's resonating with them, to kind of help refine how you understand the impact of your culture. And again, that's your biggest audience and your currently employed audience. So maybe they'll be willing to share a nugget or two about what keeps them there and what keeps them bringing back, coming back. And then, like I said, I do believe like really great recruiting does take time, and you do need to invest in nurturing those relationships. And time is everything. Timing is everything. Timely communication, the right timing on behalf of a candidate on their exit versus when it's the right timing for your organization to hire. So give yourself grace, to kind of be able to bring that together.
Yeah, excellent advice. Thank you for sharing. That's all the time that we have now for this discussion. It's been really interesting. Appreciate your time and insights, Ingrid. And thanks for sharing with what's been going on at the forum. It's so great to have inspiring members like you in the MACC network. So MACC members, you're encouraged to visit the MACC website and our Ask MACC page of additional resources. You'll find a variety of information and links to helpful content, including more in this series of recorded HR interviews. So keep in touch. We're here to support you and our network of MACC members. Thank you. Have a great day and be well. Goodbye.